Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Chronicles of Hollywood History, Past, Present, and Future. Welcome. And here now, Corey Gomez.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Chronicles of Hollywood History, Past, Present, and Future. This is Corey, and today I am joined by actress extraordinaire, the lovely Miss Julia Nickson. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Well, I'm really glad to discover your podcast. I love to walk, and now I have a whole new bunch of episodes of people that I really have enjoyed watching over the years to listen to.
Well,
Makes exercising so much more fun.
33 to choose from so far and counting.
Yes, I just saw you had Dustin in from his, I guess, new arrival from Vietnam. I'm so excited.
Oh, yes, he was fantastic. I really liked him. He was, I've been a fan of his for many years.
Very handsome young man. And I'll look forward to meeting up with him at some point.
Oh, he was very nice, very personable. Had a lot of fun. I always, I was a 21 Jump Street fan. Of course, I was a VIP fan with Pam Anderson. So, I kind of watched him regularly for about 5-6 years on TV. So,
yeah, it was very rare to have an Asian in a series at that point.
Yeah, because in Jump Street, he didn't really do much, but in VIP, he showcased all of his martial arts abilities. So I thought that was actually the role I preferred, to be honest with you.
Ah, was Liddy Denier in VIP?
I don't think so.
Oh, that must have been a different show then.
I know he's on Warrior now, and I think he does a lot of the sword work in that.
Oh, fabulous! I love sword work.
Do you study martial arts, or did you study martial arts?
No, I'm a terrible martial artist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm really not good. I studied dance for a long time. I don't quite have the brute force that some of the requirements are for martial artists. When I did what's that movie, Double Dragon? Yeah, I was pretty hopeless in it, honestly.
I liked Double Dragon. I know a lot of people kind of got down on it because the video game fans, but Mark Dacascos, he's a legend. John Mallory Asher is one of the coolest guys I've met. I mean, it was just a fun film.
We had a great time making it. I think I was a little disappointed with the visual effects of what was that big creature?
Yeah, toward the end it was kind of hokey looking, but
I know, really. But filming in Cincinnati was wonderful. Other than that, I mean, it's on Amazon, so you can watch it for nothing, for Prime.
I'm a fan. I got the Blu-ray collector set.
That's funny. And I think really Scott Wolf did really well out of it. I mean, he had a whole great career after Double Dragon.
Yeah, I thought Mark Dacascos, he should have had a huge career. He should have been a huge action star, but he finally got a shot about a year ago. The bad guy in John Wick 3. It doesn't get more prominent than that.
Mm-hmm. I know. Can you believe he went into Iron Chef, which I've not seen any of, and it was the last thing I would ever expect Mark would be hosting. He's, Mark is a little mixed. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He looks like a hero. He looks like a good guy, and a lot of times the stars or the actors that work really well in martial arts films look like bad guys,
Mm-hmm.
They're tough and mean, and Mark kind of had a very youthful appearance, and that may have been a problem in casting.
He made a good villain in Cradle to the Grave against Jet Li, but for the most part, all his films, I've always enjoyed. Great, amazing martial artist. So yeah, I was kind of figured after Drive or something he'd get a big break, but he works, makes great movies. He just never had that. I always kind of would hope to see more of him on the big screen, so to speak.
It's not over till it's over.
And he was on Dancing with the Stars. He is
a lot of years ahead of him.
Did you see him on Dancing with the Stars?
I have not. But honestly, he's a phenomenal person to work with. He actually did help me out enormously, and I'm very fond of Mark.
Yeah, I'm hoping to interview him here in the next week or two, I believe.
Yay.
Now, I have to ask you because your first movie out of the gate was one of the biggest films of '85. I mean, you were in Rambo: First Blood Part 2. Do you have any memories of like working with Stallone or working on set, or was it intimidating for something that big to be your first film?
Oh, it was really frightening. I actually had a girlfriend of mine is married to Robert Zemeckis, Leslie Zemeckis, and I had dinner with them one night, and it was so funny because I realized that Back to the Future was number one in 1985, and Rambo was number two. So that was kind of cool. We didn't expect it to be such a big blockbuster. I was cast out of Honolulu, and they had done this huge search to find a girl. I had been studying acting for 3 years. I, studied Shakespeare at UH with Terrence Knapp, and then moved into an actor's workshop with Jack Hogan, who used to be on Kelly's Heroes. And when Rambo came up, I mean, I really felt like, okay, this is it. This is my opportunity. I had literally, before I did Rambo, decided, well, what character can I play in Hollywood? Because there just weren't many Asian women on the screen. So I came up with this idea, because I'm born and raised in Southeast Asia. I can play a peasant. So I got myself one of those straw hats and a basket of fruit and some black, pajamas from Chinatown. And I said to my photographer friend, we're going to do a shoot of me as a peasant. So I was there looking very much like a model with my basket of fruit and my straw hat. And she took some pictures. And I used that picture, actually, to, send to casting. And that's when they called me in. It's just really hysterical. So finally, after about 4 auditions, they had me meet Stallone. He actually flew to Honolulu. And I remember thinking, okay, I'm here with him. Do something. Like, make something happen. So I touched him, mm-hmm. As part of the scene. I just grabbed his arm. And it went, his arm is not moving. I mean, it's a rock. Mm-hmm. And that got me to LA at the time of the Olympics for a very big 35 millimeter screen test. There was another whole slew of girls for competition in that. I flew back to Honolulu because, it's kind of weird. After you do the audition, no one says, well, where are you going to be? Like, are you hanging around? Are you going back? You just kind of leave the room. So I flew back to Honolulu. I mean, at their expense. And my boyfriend at the time picked me up at the airport, and he says, oh, LA wants you to call. And I went, yeah, I'm not calling LA right now. We're going boating. So we went out on a boat. And after our boat trip, I was at this phone booth on this road called Sandy Island Access Road. I mean, in the middle of nowhere. And I didn't, this is when you had to put money in the phone. Mm-hmm. So I called them collect because I had not enough coins to call them. And that's when they told me the casting director, Rhonda Young, was so sweet. She goes, have you ever seen yourself in 35 millimeter? And I said, no. And then she said, well, how would you like to spend 8 weeks in Acapulco? And that was it. It was just extraordinary. Was
it, were you kind of surprised, like, because I remember, there was the Reagan era, and, he's doing, summits and conferences and newscasts quoting Rambo. Did you ever figure that was going to have that kind of huge cultural impact on the world?
It was really hard for me. At one point, when we were doing publicity, I guess I said to someone, well, Rambo needed a girlfriend because you can't just have men going to see this film. They've got to bring their dates, and there's got to be some romance in it to make this a communal experience. So next thing I knew, they flew me to New York to do a whole slew of shows that I was not very well equipped to do, to tell you the truth. And there I was on like CBS, these really big anchors, and they were asking me questions about, the ramifications of this movie and what it really meant and the symbolism. And I'm just a girl in the jungle trying to rescue a guy. So, I had to learn really quickly. But it was extraordinary. I mean, I made Time magazine. Rambo was everywhere, good or bad. It brought people into the theater, and it was a huge success.
Are you surprised that, like we were just a year ago when we saw Rambo 6 and all these years later, and Stallone himself has alluded to there could still be yet another one?
It was 5. Rambo 5 was what we saw last.
Was 5 the...
Right?
Yeah, was it 5 or... Let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4... Yeah, 5, but he's alluding that there might be another one, too.
Yeah, and why not?
Hey.
I mean, it keeps him young. It's, look, it's really hard for me just to get in shape for one film, and there he is doing it year after year after year. I really give him credit for that.
Oh, he's 20-something years older than me, and he looks 50-something years younger.
He's strong.
Yeah.
I mean, he's disciplined. He's in that gym twice a day, even when he's filming. I think, he's allowed to do what he wants to do. He's certainly earned the right to that. He has his niche. He has his audience. Not everybody is going to go see it. I actually still haven't seen the one that was in Afghanistan. I was actually in Israel with my only husband, my then husband, and he was doing a movie there, a big movie, Appointment with Death, with huge stars. And we went through Israel, all these different places, and we were at some resort place, and they were giving us free massages at one point. And the masseuse goes, "Yeah, Sly was here. He was just here," because that's where they filmed Rambo 3. And everywhere I went, every hotel we went to, Sly had just been there. It was extraordinary. He caused quite a commotion.
Then you have Stallone, arguably one of the greatest action stars of all time, and a few years later you go with another one of the greatest action stars of all time, Chuck Norris, in more of a family films, Sidekicks. I am not going to lie, and I'm not ashamed to say it because I'm over the phone and I can't blush because I'm seeing you. I had such a crush on you in Sidekicks. You were so cute. I really, because everybody was like all my friends like, "Hey, the girl from the Wonder Years is in that." I was like, I don't care about her. I was just she's too little. I was like, I like Noreen Chan. She's hot.
Oh, thank you. It was one of the sweetest films, probably the sweetest film I've made. I absolutely fell in love with Sidekicks. It was such a great cast. I got to work with Mako, who was such an incredible star. Truly, basically, he is revered in the Asian industry. He's got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He can play, even though you told me recently that he doesn't do martial arts. He looks like he does martial arts. He's tough.
Looks like a monk right out of one of the old Shaw Brother films. I mean, yeah, it's astounding.
And he can do Shakespeare, he can do humor and comedy, he can do, something where he's, opposite that very famous actor in Sand Pebbles. What's his name now? Ooh, now I'm messing up. Receiving an Academy Award nomination. He's extraordinary. So, Mako, he also played my dad in Walker, Texas Ranger, which I was so thrilled to be working with him again. And we truly miss him. He just went too soon. He should have lived to 110.
You had a long relationship there with Chuck.
Well, I like that about Chuck. He brings people that he's worked with before onto whatever he does. I was fortunate to play a 3-episode arc in Walker, Texas Ranger, playing the same character, and because I'm not a martial artist, so I just played a doctor, and later, I was a single mom, and Hollywood is a very up and down industry, and so at one point I said to them, "Hey, I really could use some help, and I know you guys have a loop troupe to do the background voices. Can I be part of the loop group?" And they said, "Absolutely." So Aaron was the producer who also directed Sidekicks, and he brought me into the loop group. Now, Do you know what looping is?
I do.
Oh, okay. So I'm just going to briefly explain it for people, because most people don't realize this.
I won't lie to you. I won't lie to you. Branscombe had to tell me what it was.
Branscombe's a great looper. When you watch a film, you're only hearing the stars are being recorded, but nobody else is saying the word. Everyone in the background is going peas and carrots silently to themselves. So all of that noise and all of the sounds of people making, as they say, hit the ground in Rocker, Texas Ranger when they've been thumped by Chuck Norris, that is done in the studio. So we create all that background voice, and it's really good work when you can get it. So I did that for 3 years. And then Mia Peoples came on the show. She's just fabulous, so beautiful. And she was the martial artist, so she did all these crazy fight scenes. And I would do her efforts in the studio, kind of noises. It was great. I so enjoyed it.
But that was you doing the kata in SIdekicks, wasn't it?
I did, but kata is a little more dance related, right?
I mean, it was spotless, though. I mean, I'd put it right up there with Cynthia Rothrock's, who's she's a forms champion, for God's sakes.
Oh, well, I think Cynthia probably wouldn't, though. I learned that in a week. I had a trainer, and it was my first time learning a kata.
Oh,
and after the third day, I walked up to Aaron, who was directing, Aaron Norris, and I could barely walk. I was limping considerably. And he was like, "Oh, Julia, I'm so sorry." So he got me some kind of iguana repellent. I don't know what it was. And I was supposed to rub that on my body every day. And somehow I got through it. So when I did SIdekicks, I wanted to rehearse before we filmed it, and there are all these people in the stands, and I thought, this will be perfect. No one's filming in this area, but these people are here, so I'm just going to do it, and get through a rehearsal. So I did it, and it was quite good, and I was very pleased at myself, and not a single person clapped, which I thought, oh, okay, maybe I wasn't that good. And I walked out of the arena, and I realized that they were all cardboard cutout people. They were just, every fifth person was exactly the same as the other. So, yeah, we had great fun doing SIdekicks. I love Jonathan very much.
How, because, he, for those that don't know, he took his own life a few years later. Said he was depressed about the acting career stalling out. Because he was still fairly young in SIdekicks. How was he on the set? Was there anything about him that seemed sad or depressed, or was he just happy to be there, kind of a fun kid?
No, but he's very precocious. Jonathan is like that. He was already a big Tiger Beat star when he did SIdekicks. So he was on the cover of a multitude of teen magazines. His parents are just wonderful people and very loving. They were so broken up by his suicide. I think what happens with young people is they do have an extraordinary amount of success when they're young, and it does kind of flip when they get older, because casting directors, producers are not sure exactly how to cast them. And I know he did a film, Heart's War, with Bruce Willis. Previous to his passing, and I kind of joked with him, "Oh, were you a glorified extra?" That's a terrible thing to say, but at some point we all pigeonhole ourselves in certain categories. And he goes, "Oh, were you there?" So there were a bunch of guys that were in the core, the group of guys that were the soldiers under Bruce Willis. I didn't see the movie, so I don't know. And I think they may have gotten into a bit of trouble over there. But something kind of clicked, and, I think he became very sad and upset about where his life was going. It seemed like when he took his life, it was a very random, very quick decision. I can't say that he thought about it a long time. I'd seen him about 3 months prior, and he was great. We had a great time. We went to a Hollywood party together. And we were supposed to bring wine, so we each had a bottle of wine because this person was celebrating their new house in their wine cellar. So we kind of looked at each other, and, you know, he's very mischievous. We walked into the wine cellar, and we put our 2 bottles down and left with one very expensive bottle. And went out and drank it. Nobody knows the story now except you, me, and, you know, whoever's listening. And had a lovely evening, and then that was the last time I saw him.
Do you, were you ever think that they would make like a follow-up to that movie? Because it has a huge cult following, but to my knowledge, I don't even know if it has a proper DVD release yet.
What, Sidekicks?
Yeah.
Sidekicks, I wondered about the DVD, you know, because everywhere I went, I had, you know, younger people, family people saying, I really liked Sidekicks. It was such a fun movie. And where's the DVD? And I had no answer for them.
I've only seen bootlegs of it.
Partly, yeah, I made some bootlegs of it, but I didn't sell them. but partly it was produced by Mattress Mac. Mattress Mac is famous in Houston. He used to sell mattresses on the side of the road, and then he opened up his mattress store. And he's just one of those guys, very outgoing, who was so kind to his community. In fact, even during the flood, he opened up his store so people could come in and rest and sleep on his mattresses in the store. I mean, the church didn't even do that. So I'm not going to mention the name of the person who owned that church, but he didn't even do that. So Mattress Mac decided he wanted to make a movie, and he was talking to a swimmer, an Olympic swimmer, about it, who wanted him to finance his film. And Chuck happened to be at that cocktail party, and Chuck overheard, and so he kind of eventually took Mattress Mac away and said, you know, I've got a much better script for you. I don't know that Chuck had any script at that point, but he certainly got one, and it happened to be Sidekicks. And that's how it came to be made. It was private money. So while we were filming, you know, Mac would come, and he didn't know the filming process, and he would watch, and he'd go, look, as a businessman, he said, we can make this film in a much quicker time. All these people standing around should be doing things. And we had to explain to him, no, makeup just does makeup, and lighting's just do lights. So it was quite an awakening. I don't know that he either didn't want to put the money into making the DVD, maybe had to deal with the studios at that point who had studio that had acquired it. Maybe the studio didn't want to put it out. But it is now available on YouTube for free.
Yes,
yeah.
I rewatched the Joe Piscopo Chuck Norris fight not that long ago.
Yeah, I have fond memories of that.
I think that was my disappointment, was that, you know, because of course there's Karate Kid inspiration there, and, you know, Jonathan Brandis, you know, he's tormented by this kid through the whole film, and they have a little scuffle in the gym, but, you know, they're at the big tournament at the end, and they don't fight each other. It's a brick break. I was kind of like, well, I wanted to see him beat this other kid up. What's going on here?
Well, I had to do something a little, you know, I mean, Jonathan was not a brawny guy, and he probably knew very little martial arts. So you have to work with, you know, the talent that you decided to cast. But, you know, I remember that year Arnold Schwarzenegger came out with a film that kind of had a similar premise that, you know, we didn't know when we were filming. And I did watch that film, and I thought ours was much better.
The Last Action Hero?
Yes, exactly.
Well, the Last Action Hero made it dumb is, here's this kid that lives in this horrible crime-ridden apartment. He can't go outside without getting mugged, and he goes into this beautiful Hollywood world. Why doesn't he take his mom into the beautiful Hollywood world? He goes back to his shithole apartment in a crime-ridden area. If you really look at it past the credits, it's a depressing ending.
Yeah, I don't remember it, but I just thought, you know, I'm just going to stick with my premise. Ours was better.
You know, you had Chuck, who arguably, I've always said, you know, in a real life fight, Chuck Norris world champion. He's gonna win that fight. But, you know, 2 years later, you worked with one of my other favorite martial artists, Gary Daniels, and I believe White Tiger might have been his first major role here.
You know, I forgot to look that up. It could be. He's So handsome, Gary. My God. And my dad was British, and so I'm very fond of British men. We bonded very much because we had both read this book called Shike by Robert Shea. And Shike was sort of an assassin, martial artist, Buddhist monk, and he fell in love with a Japanese woman named Taniko during the Mongol invasion of Japan. And so I always felt like I'm Taniko and this is my Shike with Gary. and you know, so we had a great time. It was not a fully fleshed out script. I did it because there aren't a lot of roles for Asian women, especially back then. And so sometimes you just take what you can get and try to, you know, create something magical out of it. So I did create a backstory for Jade, for my character, because her impetus, what she was trying to accomplish made no sense in the film. So I asked them to give me a scene at the end where I have a reunion with my child. And so the premise of it being that my child had been kidnapped by the triads, and everything I was doing was in order to get my child back. And that sort of fleshed everything out and made the plot line more sense. So at the end, you see me, Dana Lee, who plays, you know, the triad leader, comes with my kid, and I embrace my kid, and then you understand why she went through all the manipulations that she did. It's beautifully filmed. Yeah. You want to add to that?
I mean, you've got, what's not to like? I mean, you've got Gary Daniels and you've got Cary Tagawa together in a film. Is just amazing. It was. I'm a huge Gary Daniels fan. I think I own, and I've had to outsource him from other countries, every film he's made, and he's still making them. The guy he looks about the same, for God's sakes.
He does. We just saw each other recently. Every now and then we run into each other. It's so great. We go off in a corner and we just chat, talk about, you know, White Tiger and what he's doing, and he still looks amazing. I have a picture of him and I on my Instagram page.
See, when I interviewed him, it had to be done via email. So I submitted him the questions, and he gave very nice, detailed answers. But unfortunately, I was not able to talk to him. I'm hoping to change that here within the next year. But no, and my wife has always been a huge fan of his, especially when he had the long ponytail. She knows exactly who he is as well.
Yeah, he's another one. You know, the martial artists, they're so disciplined, honestly. They work incredibly hard. You know, he can still probably do the splits and all kinds of kicks, and I know he gets frustrated because, you know, none of us work as much as we want to work. But he's definitely one of the handsome men that I worked with.
Well, speaking of handsome men, did you get to meet the great legend to me, Sammo Hung, when you did the work on martial law?
No.
Oh.
I think I only looped martial law. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I just looped it. No, Kelly did martial law.
I knew
she's a real...
You were Loop Group, I knew. I just didn't know if you got to meet anybody on set that day, or if it was recorded somewhere else.
No, we do it in the studio, but Kelly is extraordinary. I mean, she, you know, I don't know if you interviewed her, but her story is she used to she got beat up at school badly. She's from Hawaii, and the locals would beat her up. So she learned to be a martial artist, which I think was fantastic. And she's the real thing.
No, I'm a big fan. I'm trying to interview her, so she's definitely on the list, and she's still active too. She does a lot of the DC Marvel stuff. She pops up in now.
Yeah, because, you know, that was the thing. I should not have been a dancer. I should have been a martial artist.
You could fake it perfectly good, though. I was convinced you were a black belt after seeing Sidekicks.
Oh, you're very, very funny. Thank you.
You know, and then we talked off air.
Charm will get me everywhere.
You know, you did my favorite show there. We talked about it before we recorded. L.A. Heat, the PM Entertainment, Wolf Larson, Stephen Williams show. You know, you popped up in a lot of amazing stuff.
Yes, I'm fortunate. I have a pension, you know, I have Social Security coming. I'm very, very lucky. I think when I did Rambo in 1985, there were only 3 films with Asian girls in them, and we were all not very well fleshed out characters. None of us were, like real leading lady roles. But there were 3 of us, and that was it. Some years were very, very scarce. In those years, we could make in one film enough money to live for a whole year.
Mm-hmm.
I did something like Noble House, and I made enough money to live for a year, and Around the World in 80 Days, also with Pierce Brosnan. So those were good days. You didn't have to do a multitude. Now it's a lot different. The money's a lot less for us.
You did a Power Ranger episode.
With Branscombe.
Oh, was he in that one? Was that the...
Yes, he plays my husband.
Was Isaac Florentine the director of that particular series, or had he already come and gone?
I don't know, because I only worked a day or two on it. Yeah.
I watched it when I was like fresh out of high school when it started, so I had watched it a while. My son was like heavily into it and he was younger. I mean, that's another one that all these years later, it's still going strong.
Well, and then they have, different productions of that show, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it continues in a different format. Yeah. I didn't, it wasn't like, I want to go do, what is it, Power?
I think you were on Power Force.
Power Force. It wasn't like I decided, I want to do the show. But there are certain shows where they call for Asian artists because they are, martial arts based.
Did you ever think of going, to start doing films in Hong Kong?
Oh, I did try once. It's very funny. Before I got Rambo, I was flown there with 2 other girls, and they ended up flying us in, flying us in, giving us dinner, auditioning us the next day, and then sending us home that night. So they only had to pay for one hotel room, one hotel night. I mean, we were exhausted. I did not get that deal. I know the girl who did. But one day, recently, Jim Lau, who is very well known, he comes up to me and goes, "You don't remember me, do you?" And I go, "From before?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "No, not really. Where did we meet?" He goes, "Well, I was the director in Hong Kong when you went. I was the one, trying to, do an audition with you." And I went, "Oh my God, I had no idea." So it was so funny many years later to meet someone that I had met during my very first film audition experience. And funny for them because, after I didn't get that movie, I was in the second biggest movie in the world.
Did you like filming in Hawaii for Magnum?
Yes, I did. I did very small roles. I was quite awful, honestly.
I won't lie to you, and this makes people mad. I've talked to several people from Magnum. I've never seen a single episode of Magnum P.I.
Oh, it's such a fun show. The original now. We're talking about the original. It's wonderful. The new one is great, too.
I was only 6 when Magnum came out. And, I watched the A-Team, but, Magnum was almost, I don't want to say it was, too grown up for me. It just wasn't my thing. And believe it or not, a few years ago, I got the big DVD set from one of the studios, and I have yet to sit down and actually watch it. It's moving closer to the pile as I talk to people that have been on the show.
Yeah, you will enjoy it. Tom, he struggled for years. And then he came to do Magnum, and they were ready to start up, and then there was a strike. So then he had to, fill in time, before they started filming. But I have to tell you, for those, because I lived in Hawaii at the time, and for those of us who were models, and it was just so exciting, and we were just thrilled because it was not just an action show. Hawaii Five-0 was great, the one that preceded it. Mm-hmm. But Magnum had such a flavor to it, such a contemporary flavor, improvisational humor, and he was so sexy in his short shorts.
I've always been jealous that I look like a goon when I have a mustache, so I have to do a full beard. So anybody that can support, a nice mustache, I'm always jealous of because I can't do it.
He was also really, really kind. when you were new on the show, well, I don't know if he was kind to everybody, but I think he was. It was his nature just to be very, very caring to people that were, treading new water, and very good, to me. I wasn't friends with him per se, but just in that professional basis. And then later on, I did a show for him with, see, I knew I had to write names down. A very famous actor, who was in a lot of big movies. And, it wasn't a great show, but, James, never mind, I know so many James now. So we, you can cut this part, right? You can edit this part out, right? Yeah. No, you don't, I'm just joking. So I got to work with him, not on screen again, but he was producing it.
You did Nash Bridges too, correct?
Yes.
Now that I watched.
I did 2 episodes of Nash Bridges, and I really had a great time working with Don Johnson. He's got a very sarcastic sense of humor, and I'm looking up my credits now so I get them all
great.
straight.
I mean, he's popped up in some Tarantino films. He's still going strong.
Well, I was just in awe of him from Miami Vice, and there's something about Don that he just has extraordinary charm. So I was in one of the episodes, and I had this gangster boyfriend. And one day, I get a call from a girlfriend she needs people to donate blood, platelets specifically for a child that has cancer. And I go, yeah, I'll do it. So I go down and I donate the platelets. And then I find out a couple of months later that the child I donated platelets for was my gangster boyfriend's child.
Oh.
Yeah, and Hunter unfortunately passed away. I didn't know that, but I was grateful I could do some little thing,
You did voice work in Mile 22 recently too, didn't you? With Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, yes. Yes, that is a film they did in Indonesia.
Yeah, it had a, I'm going to butcher this guy's name, and I hate to do it because I'm such a fan. Iko Uwais.
He's incredible.
I have never seen a guy fight like that ever in my life. He's so awesome to watch.
I think he's starring in other movies now, but he really, I watched that fight scene where he was in the hospital bed handcuffed, and he just took everybody out that came in. And I'm really, it's kind of difficult to do foreign films because my Malay is good, but I'm not fluent in Malay, and so we had to speak Malay. And yet, you just do what you can. It's how you make a living. Branscombe knows this. You just fake whatever you don't know.
He was in, if you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix, this amazing foreign film, triad film called The Night Comes for Us. It has got to be, it's so violent, it's to the point where it's like you're getting tired. You're like, how many more people is this guy going to kill, before this ends? But, oh my God, I've never seen anybody move like that guy.
Yeah, he's definitely someone to watch. James Coburn. Okay, I should not have forgotten James Coburn's name, but I played opposite him in Silver Fox, and that's what Tom Selleck produced. We were hoping it would be a pilot, but it didn't happen. But I got to kiss James Coburn. How cool is that?
Do you prefer film or TV?
I actually enjoy TV better. I like the pace. It's a little faster. I like the format. I always think that you look better on a smaller screen than a big screen.
I think you look fine on either.
Thank you. And I always wanted to do a series, and I've never done a series. I've only done, semi-recurring roles. I actually loved doing this episode of Sequest. I don't know if you ever saw that.
I remember the show.
You do? Mm-hmm. That's why some of the writers was on that show, the Marshall Kelly Who show that you were talking about. Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the writers was on that, and he loved the episode I did. It was a fantastic character, and it was supposed to reoccur. One day I came to the set and I saw my name was on a chair. And I said, why is my name on a chair? Because they don't give that to the guest stars, only to the regulars. And they said, oh, well, you're the new regular. And I said, well, nobody told me. And that's because that show got canceled that day.
Oh, well, that's...
Yeah. And Jonathan was in the show. Jonathan co-starred in it. Yeah, Jonathan Brandis was a co-star.
And Peter DeLuise.
And Mike DeLuise.
Yeah, they were both in there. I like both of them.
Yeah.
Don't know what happened
I like
either
Mike.
one. I haven't seen either one.
I knew someone that dated Mike in Hawaii. And so I told him, when I first met him, I set him up. I said, oh, hi, nice to meet you. I'm really glad to be here. I read palms, so maybe I can read your palm one day. And he got really excited. So a couple of days later, I went and read his palm and told him all about his growth. This friend of mine that he dated, and he kind of turned pale and went, wow, you're really good. Yeah, I got to do things like that.
What does he do now? Any idea? I haven't seen either of the DeLuise brothers. I haven't seen either of them. I know Peter, I think, directs, or he did for a while.
Mike did some theater. I think he was on Gilmore Girls for a while, and unfortunately his dad passed away. His mom passed away. I think they're, I know that they want to work, but as is this business, sometimes you have a flurry of work, and then sometimes you kind of sit on the sidelines for a while. So I'm not really sure what's happening. I haven't seen him for about a year.
I always remember him because the night of my high school graduation was the night that the movie Encino Man with Pauly Shore and Brandon Fraser opened, and he was the bad guy in that movie, so to speak. And I decided to not go to my graduation and go see that movie instead. So when my son or wife ever asks me about graduation, I can tell them that I saw Michael DeLuise instead at Encino Man. Which had to be a lot more fun than sitting in a crowded room waiting to get a piece of paper.
Oh, come on. That's shame on you.
I had to go up to the school a week later, just be like, can I have my diploma? I wasn't at the graduation.
I guess it's the only thing they don't call roll for, so you're lucky.
I had no desire to go, so I knew I graduated. I didn't need to sit there, so.
Well, I'm really happy to have talked to you.
I am too. I had a really nice time.
So look forward to listening to all the podcasts now. And Branson's been a friend for a very long time. He has the most beautiful wife that I used to model with. But I always felt like I was just, the junior model, and she was like the diva. I actually did a lot of work in Hawaii at that time. But to me, Leima'a epitomized a Parisian model, even though she was, what we call a local girl. And she's like 6 foot, so we'd walk down the ramp together. And I enjoyed ramp, and I was good at it. But every now and then they would put me with Leima'a on, this other beautiful 6 foot model, and I'd go, why are they emphasizing how short I am? I couldn't understand it. But she's just lovely, and they've been married for... I remember Branson coming to a show, and we all kind of looked at him with suspicion, Hollywood type actor. Is he good enough for our Leima'a? We're not sure.
I've only known him now for a couple months, and it'd been, I think recently, about a week ago, I was like, I've never asked you, how long have you been married? And he just went, long time. And that was the answer. So.
Yeah, I got to stay with them in Maui once, so that was great fun.
Well, thank you. You have a beautiful voice. I just need to stress that again. I can see why you get so much voice work. This was very fun. I really hope you had a nice time. I'd hope one day that you could come back and tell some other stories.
Yes, I'm going to do a film in Hong Kong coming up, probably mid-November. It's a very naughty film about very highly paid models in Hong Kong, European models, and my friend Byron Mann has written it and is producing it and starring in it. It's definitely an R-rated movie, but I'm just playing his mom, and she's a great character, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, I hope you'll come back and promote it, and because that would be awesome.
Thank you, Corey. I so appreciate you.
Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen. You have been listening to the Chronicles of Hollywood History. Thank you from Gomez Richmond Productions.